What's cooking, everybody? Dave Altizer here with Kinotika. Today we're talking about the top 10 things to know about the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom. We've had the DJI Mavic 2s for about a month now, so we really have gotten a lot of experience using them. So make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you don't miss any of our DJI Mavic 2 videos. The first thing to know about the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom is, well, it zooms. It zooms from 24mm to 48mm, which might not sound like a lot, but it's actually really usable and extremely practical. I did some tests using this while I was spinning around Connor, zooming in as I was flying, and it created this really dynamic shot that you could never do any other way. One of my favorite things about having zoom on a drone leads to number 2, which is the dolly zoom effect. You may recognize this type of effect from movies like Vertigo or Jaws, and it's used a lot in cinema to convey a lot of uneasy feelings. It's super cool and really unique, and honestly, I've really never seen people do this, especially on a drone of this size, because, well, it just doesn't exist. So having the ability to do this dolly zoom effect is super fun and one of the coolest features about this drone. The third thing to know about the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom is the sensor inside of the camera. Unfortunately, it is using the exact same 1/2 inch CMOS 12 megapixel sensor from the Mavic 1 Pro. However, we do obviously have the new lens, which is a huge upgrade. The previous Mavic 1 Pro was locked at 28mm, which was never really wide enough for me. So having 24mm equivalent on the wide end, and of course the 48mm zoom in telephoto shot, makes the zoom obviously a much better drone than the Mavic 1 Pro. At the end of the day, you are still going to get similar image quality because the sensors are the same, but that leads me to the fourth point about the Mavic 2 Zoom, and that is the upgraded bitrate. We now have H.265 codec in the camera, which means you can record at 100 megabits per second. That is a pretty big upgrade compared to the Mavic 1 Pro, which was at 60 megabits per second. Having an upgraded bitrate is good because it gives you just a little bit more flexibility in post, especially when you're shooting in D-Log, which you can do on this drone, to give you really cinematic results. The fifth thing to know about the DJI Mavic Zoom is the high-res mode. What's really cool about this camera is because we have that 48mm zoom, you can do some interesting things with software. So what DJI has done is they've created this high resolution mode, which is really neat. Basically, the camera zooms into 48mm and takes 4 separate images, stitches that together to make a 48 megapixel shot, and now you have this really big image taken on a only 12 megapixel sensor. The high-res mode is great for photographers and for anybody who wants to get great crisp looking aerial shots, and it's a really great addition to have with the zoom. The sixth thing to know about the M2 Zoom is it actually has better autofocus than the M2 Pro. Believe it or not, even though the M2 Pro has several advantages over the M2 Zoom, you are actually getting a better autofocus performance with this drone. The autofocus in the Zoom is a hybrid of contrast and phase detect. This new hybrid AF improves the autofocus performance by about 40% accuracy, which is great to have with the Zoom. The seventh thing to know about this drone is the new hyperlapse function. Having hyperlapse in camera on the drone is pretty incredible. In fact, with the new repeat task mode, you can actually shoot a hyperlapse from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, essentially taking it up every hour and doing the same motion over and over, stitching that together and create like a really cool hyperlapse from the sky. The creative possibilities of this new hyperlapse mode are really only limited to your mind, your head, and your brain. Number 8, the blades are quieter. I can't give you an exact percentage amount, but I will tell you that they are substantially quieter than the previous Mavic. Why does that matter? Well, the previous Mavic sounded like a giant swarm of bees coming towards you, about to sting you to death. Now it sounds like a swarm of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes have a lot less of a noise from their wings flapping than bees. If you were to ask me, I would take a swarm of mosquitoes over bees any day, and hopefully next year we'll get butterflies. The ninth thing to know about the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom is the frame rates for video. We still don't unfortunately have 4K at 60 frames per second. We're limited to 30 frames per second in 4K. However, we do gain 60 frames per second in the 2.7K mode, which I'm perfectly fine with, especially if you're only delivering in 1080p. Additionally, at 1080p, we also gain 120 frames per second. Include that with the great autofocus performance, and you have an amazing slow-mo camera that's capable of going wide angle to to telephoto with the zoom. Pretty cool. The 10th thing to know about the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom is the SD card slots are really confusing and really stupid. Let me show you what I'm talking about. On the bottom here is where the SD card slot is, and it's got this nice little protected cover, which I'm happy with, and that's great. But right next to it is another one that's completely identical to this one. And there's nothing under there except a button, which I think is used to sync another transmitter to your drone. It's fine that they're both there, but why on earth did DJI not mark this or label this one as the SD and then this one as a transmitter? I don't know. I think they're just trying to go with this minimal Apple kind of thing where it's just clean and unintuitive, and it's really frustrating because I can't tell you how many times I opened the wrong SD door. I'm taking a Sharpie, I'm drawing SD on there, then I'll never have a problem again. Overall, the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom is a really versatile drone because of that zoom range, and obviously we get all these great upgrades of the Mavic 2 that are similar to the Mavic 2 Pro as well, so make sure to check out our top 10 things to know about the Mavic 2 Pro in the eye icon above. Obviously, the Mavic 2 Zoom is a more affordable drone to buy next to the Mavic 2 Pro, and if you really love the versatility of that zoom, then it's kind of a no-brainer. There's way more things about the Mavic 2 Zoom that are great that weren't in this top 10 list. If there's anything specific that you really like about it, let me know in the comment section below. We really want you guys to get the word out there about the Mavic 2 Zoom, so please share this video with anyone you think would be interested in the Mavic 2 Zoom. Once again, I'm Dave Altizer. This Mavic 2 color scheme kind of reminds me of my old PlayStation 1. See you next time.